Oh boy.
Go on, Blondie. I love it. That hair, girl, I love it. You are gorgeous. I love it.
Woo! Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you. Hey, before I can even get to what we're talking about, I've got Dr. Deborah Holden with me today. I know you all are as excited as I am. I just called you like a couple of hours ago. I said, I need you. I want you to come on. And I said, I don't want anyone else to be here. I want to talk to her by myself. Because this is also a space. We're talking about saving Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, public health. What does it mean right now? What does it mean? The Pentagon has failed its audit for 7 consecutive years. And while DOGE is looking for waste, fraud, and abuse, they're skipping over that. Now, that's the biggest part of our budget, the Pentagon. They're going past them, and they're picking on you and me.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. As we do that, I want you to meet me on Blue Sky, santitajackson.bsky.social, santitajackson.bsky.social, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Bernadette, Robert, Shalom. Everybody, please lock us in, like and share. Those of you who are watching, because you all just keep on splitting everything up, and I love it. Please like and share the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I am still on X. I was about to call it Twitter, but you know what it is, at Santita J, and then the Santita Jackson and Friends page, the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. See, you got people already looking in. They're like, hey, Doc, what's up? Before we even get to our topic today, because there will be cuts to Social Security, to Medicare, and to Medicaid. And what will that mean? We have to find out what this brilliant woman has been up to and what she is up to next. Of course, she's a professor of epidemiology at NYU. She's the former dean of global public health, but she's one of the foremost epidemiologists and foremost public health experts in the world today. And we're so honored to have her back. I'm so touched. I love her. She is my baby sister, beloved. And, I want to thank you right now for getting us through the pandemic. It was such a frightening time. Before we even knew of any kind of meds that could help us. You really helped to usher us through. You made us understand, hey, we're going to make it. Then you brought Dr. Shanina Knight into us. You said, hey, girl, I've got someone for you, because no one's talking about infection prevention. You said, I'd never even heard of this. I was like, me either. What is an infection preventionist? You were like, yeah, well, they help you to prevent infection, and she has a doctorate in this.
Yeah.
The things that you all told us, the reassurances that you gave us, mean everything. So when you got COVID, you called Dr. Knighton. When I got COVID, I called Dr. Knighton and I called you. You told me you had it. And of course, it became a national story because you got it at a wedding reception filled with doctors, no less. But I want to thank you because you made us unafraid of it. And thank you. I just love you with all of my heart.
Well, I love you back, Santita. And you were adamant. You said, Doc, I don't want my people scared. I don't want histrionics. I want you to give me the best knowledge that you have. You have access to what's happening in the clinical trials and all of that. People want to know about the vaccine. I don't want you to tell people to take it or not take it. I want you to give people the information and the data as you understand it, so they have what they need to make their own informed decision. And you were uniquely unbiased, but very serious about making sure people had accurate information to make their own choice. No agenda. The only agenda being that people have what they need to make an informed decision. You trained me in that one, because a lot of my colleagues do not lead with the science. They lead with agendas. And I really got that during that pandemic. So Tipping my hat to you, sister. It was an honor and a privilege to be with you and your people each day. And it did force me as a scientist to stand true to what are the data telling us? Where do we have gaps in our knowledge? I stopped giving people my opinion unless they ask, and I framed it. This is my opinion. I can tell you what I'm doing with my family, but I can't tell you what to do for yours, but I can answer your questions to the best of my ability. And that's what we needed in that season, because people were being inundated with stuff and agendas and opinions and like that. And it was hard to navigate and make sense of it all. So I just applaud you, because you didn't have to sort of take that on. And I said, oh, we on Progressive Talk talking about health. And then we took it another level. What do you actually need to do to be healthy? What do you need to do to give your body the best foundation that if you do contract COVID, that whether or not you chose to get the vaccine or the 8,000 boosters they ultimately recommended or not, that you had given yourself the best opportunity to recover. So these were those critical conversations, and it forced me as a public health professional to say, we are in a sick care system. You get the most when you're sick. But if we really wanted to be in a healthcare system, it's a system that promotes people's health, but should be giving people access to what they need to have a foundation of health and not rely solely on a panacea, whether it be a vaccine. Remember, they changed the definition of a vaccine so they
Oh
could
my
keep calling
God.
it a vaccine.
And to accommodate the efficacy of this. And now you have an HHS secretary who had been he's still one of the top environmental lawyers in the world, someone who was applauded for looking at safety in the environment, in drugs, and he's been assailed, but guess what? Now he's becoming popular. Because my only thing was, look, I just want people to have the information. I want you to make the best decision. And you brought up this spectrum. You said all the best medicine in the world, because you used to get on me about sending you emails at 1 and 2 in the morning. You were like, girl, you have no sleep hygiene. When are you sleeping? I'm like, well, I'm not. No, you're like, no, 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 no. That's not going to work. What you don't understand, Santita, is that if you don't get the rest, if you don't do everything to make yourself as healthful as you can be, I can give you all the medicine in the world, and that's not going to work. Just quickly, tell us about that. People are so happy to see you right now. They can't believe it. First of all, it's like there's a beautiful face to this voice. What? But I
Dr.
mean,
Dad's back.
Dad's
Yeah,
back.
I'm back.
Woo!
I'm back.
But
Yeah.
what is it? I mean, why have you? Because you have been someone who's been pushing. Hey, read the labels. You and Dr. Knight were like, read the labels, understand. And I think when you became a grandmother, you went on overdrive. How's the baby doing? I know she's almost in college.
She's 3 and she's so wonderful. I wasn't ready. No one could prepare you for what it's like to be a grandmother, because I didn't think I could love anybody more than I love my children, and then I became a grandmother. It's I got it bad. We're in like a love affair. I lay on the couch with her in the evenings and we read books or watch Bluey or whatever she watches, and we kind of make out, and she likes to rub noses, and she will put her head up because she loves it when I kiss her on her forehead. And I love every single thing about being a grandmother. And it's funny because now that I look, the thought that somebody, and we have laws and things that are happening now that are going to dictate her choices and her options for her health.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier. I have really taken on my health in a mighty and powerful and potent way. And that started for me in COVID. I don't know if I share with you, but I got terrible brain fog after that one COVID infection from that Wisconsin super spreader wedding with all the doctors. And I was learning at the time, and I had been vaccinated, and it's not because, it's my business whether or not to disclose, but I did get the vaccine. I got 1 booster. I was almost forced to get a second booster, or I would not have been able to attend our annual American Public Health Association conference. But at the point when I got clear, this vaccine is only going to reduce the severity of illness and decrease my likelihood of death or hospitalization. It's not actually going to prevent me from getting infection. And it's not even an assurance. It's just sort of giving my immune system like a running start, if you will. I said, well, I've had 3 infections and I think my immune system has the running start that it needs. I don't want something that's going to kick it into overdrive and amp it up, because we weren't talking about, that. So I really did, honestly, as a scientist and somebody who is sort of medical adjacent, public health. I was pre-med and natural sciences undergrad, but I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a PhD epidemiologist, like that. But I know how to read the clinical trials. I know how to read the data. I've been reviewing grants and receiving grants from the Department of Health and Human Services, CDC, and NIH, and all of that for years. I was like, I want to have a different conversation about what health is and what it looks like and what it takes to be healthy. So that was the real eye opener. And looking at her, I'm like, those are the conversations I want to have with her. It's not about whether or not she has to get this vaccine or that vaccine. What does it look like to be healthy? What does it look like to have body autonomy and health autonomy and sovereignty over one's own body and choices, and having a foundation of knowledge to be able to make informed decisions. So the thought that somebody's going to dictate her uterus, force injections on her, and all of that, I have shifted in this process. You helped me to stay as agnostic as possible, but I had some of my own transformation throughout that whole process.
Well, I thank you, because you helped me to grow. I mean,
Yeah,
because you really made me step back. Because after we got through it, and as you know, I dropped a lot of weight.
yeah.
And, it was like those last 40, 50 pounds that I'd been trying to figure out. Unconsciously, I started dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I've got to do things. I've got to get my health together. I mean, really, 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 because none of this stuff works if your baseline health is not right. That's what COVID exposed. Wherever you're vulnerable, it brought it out. And everybody, please just continue to be healthy, which brings us to this conversation, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because now, there's one of the things that you kept saying was you kept pushing public health.
Mm-hmm.
You say, I mean, because that's really your bailiwick. After
Mm-hmm.
all, because as an epidemiologist, you step back and you look, you understand the forest. But you also
Yes.
understand, one of the things that I appreciate about you is that you look at the weeds too. You're
Yeah.
like, wait, you guys, we need to understand what the big picture is, but I need you to understand where you fit in it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking at cutting Social Security, because let's be very clear, everybody, when you hear, and I don't do partisan talk, everybody, because all of that is just, you've had people who want to privatize America. The American government is one of the biggest businesses on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so different elements of it are profitable if
Mm-hmm.
they were private businesses. But government is not supposed to be a for profit business. But you
Mm-hmm.
have these oligarchs who want to get the post office because they
Mm-hmm.
see, we can make money here. And if you just give me Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, and you allow me to do invest those funds the way we did with private insurance, we can make a lot of money. But that's not what it's supposed to be about. Okay.
Well, the
What?
problem I think with the business model is make money now.
Oh.
Businesses will do some projections and they may have a pro forma and a long range plan. But to keep the lights on, people are trying to make money now. And that is a little bit of the problem and the disconnect between, somebody who is a public health professional looking at health from a community and population and societal level. There is real power in prevention. Keeping people healthy and giving them what they need to be healthy will save money in the long run,
Well,
right? So,
when you remove Social Security, or when you lessen it, because when you lessen it, you're really removing it. Because people, this is when older people, when you need Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, you need it. You need it. Everybody's going to get to a point where you need it. What does that do when you get those? You remember the Swiss cheese model?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I need you to explain that again, because I'm seeing that and I'm saying, wait a minute, people will fall through the cracks if they're not adequately covered.
Yeah.
If you
So,
don't have a social
yeah.
safety net.
So we have these multiple layers of protection, but no one thing is perfect, right? It's like Swiss cheese. It's got some holes in it. But if you line up many, 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 many layers of Swiss cheese, many imperfect things, then ultimate threats can't get through because those holes don't go all the way through. The holes up here on one thing, it's down in that corner on another thing. So we need these layers of protection, right? And then you take a leading primary layer. For a lot of people, they paid into the system and it wasn't by choice. You don't have a choice. You get that FICA and, the SSI and all that on your check.
Hmm.
I can't go to my employer and say, you know what, I don't think Social Security going to be around when I'm ready to collect. So go ahead and put that money in my 401k or my 403b. It doesn't work like that. It's a forced pay system for most of us, right? I'm from
Hmm.
the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. My father was a metropolitan DC police officer. So as a DC employee, he didn't pay into Social Security. He got a pension. But for all the rest of us, you have to pay into Social Security. People are relying on that income. For some people, that is all the income they have. If you're a low wage earner, and in a position that doesn't come with retirement benefits, and a lot of positions do not come with retirement benefits, then you are gearing yourself up and working and planning in a way where you can then exist and live on your Social Security payment. And we're going to talk about these people right now. We're going to talk about the people who are receiving Social Security as a function of reaching retirement age, because that's not everybody that's on Social Security.
Yeah.
There's many more people who are getting social. It's actually Social Security and disability, right? So
Hmm.
children of people who died prematurely are getting some kind of survivor benefit. A spouse of somebody who died might be getting a benefit. Somebody who is disabled might be getting a benefit. But let's just talk for a moment about those people who worked for 40, 50 years and are now relying on that income. To take that big layer of, protection in something that they invested in, and depending on how much you made and how long you paid in, most people will never get back what they put in.
Oh
You
yeah.
will have put way more in than you will get back. And then there's these baked in disincentives to take it to put it this way. There's an incentive to take it as late as possible
Yeah.
and disincentives to take it earlier. So you might be eligible at this age, but if you take it at this age, the benefit is less than if you take it at this age, which forces you to have, make a choice. Do I just keep working, or do you have to save in order to delay it to get the biggest benefit at this later age, knowing that it's a better and bigger benefit right now, but you're never going to live long enough to get back kind of all that you paid in. So to then abruptly, when people have planned and created a life for themselves and been really responsible to
Hmm.
prepare for that life and the well earned, well deserved final rest in life. I've worked my 40, 50 years. I've raised my children. I paid off my little house. I, got my little job I did all of that. And now I just want to enjoy my grandkids and my great grandkids and fish every Friday and all of that. And then you take away that, a benefit that they're never even going to be able to fully realize anyway, because let's be honest, it is a very intricate Ponzi scheme. It is not sustainable. We've been saying that forever.
Hmm.
What is going in versus what is going out and all the waste, it is not sustainable. It takes forever. If you apply for disability,
Oh.
and my mom ultimately became disabled, It took 3 years for her to get a decision. And then she was denied. And then we had to get an attorney. And then she was ultimately approved. And then they had to backdate that benefit to the original date of her application. So it was great when she got that windfall on that one day, but it was really rough for the 4 years that it took for her to get something that she had more than earned and deserved and met the criteria for. So,
4 years.
yeah, yeah, it's bad. And the thing is, when you have people who are not experts, people who are so far removed from the experience of the average Joe, bringing a sledgehammer to a problem that really, and it's a problem, but requires a lot more thoughtfulness and a scalpel, we get what we get. And so I think that's where we are right now. And we are going to see the economic, the health, the sort of socio-political impact of that very soon. This will happen for people very quickly when you reduce their income. If you're only getting a $1,200 benefit and it's cut by 10%, $120 might be your whole medication budget. For
Mm-mm.
some people, that's their entire food budget. And what's interesting is costs are rising. I'm in Baltimore now, and our gas and electric has doubled in price. So you're doubling the price of utilities and at the same time cutting people's income that they prepared for, paid into, are entitled to, and with no warning, no notice, now do the same or even better, pay more bills on less. People are going to be forced to make tough decisions, and it's going to have an impact.
And this was supposed to be social security. I mean, this comes out of the Great Depression, and President Franklin Roosevelt was elected to do something. People were
Mhm.
miserable. It was so bad that he sent his wife out on the road all
Mhm.
over the country. And she said, she got back to the White House and said, it's worse than we think. I
Mhm.
mean, they had turned the White House into Camp White House. A lot of the staff lived there, y'all. I mean, because things were that bad in the country. And anytime they expect eggs, I was reading in a British newspaper last night that they expect eggs to go up by 40%. Yeah, I would gulp too. I mean,
People in New York already, the egg prices have gone up there and here. People in New York, I just talked to my friend who's a infectious disease physician at Mount Sinai in New York. Um, she said she paid $12 for a dozen of eggs.
oh yeah.
$12. $12. I mean, you got to think like, I mean, so I don't want to go like deep, deep down, but we always talked about the best food actually doesn't have labels, right?
And eggs, when you pick up the egg carton, what do you see in it? Eggs.
Yeah, right. It's a whole food. It's one thing. It's a single food. Yeah.
It's
Are
like a
there?
perfect
Yeah,
protein, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah. And people always talk about well, the cholesterol in the. It's so perfect. The cholesterol in the yolk. There's a enzyme in the white what's it called? Lord, in
egg white.
the egg white that cuts the and metabolizes the cholesterol in the yolk,
So
right?
it's
So
zero net gain. Zero.
zero net gain, right? Just like with fruit, right?
Yeah.
So if you eat an apple, yes, if you're diabetic, there is sugar in the actual apple, but the fiber in the skin helps your body to better process and metabolize the sugar in the apple. And so it balances. Nature's food is really like the best. And we learned this with Blue Zones, right? The Blue Zones project, where we identified these 5, 6 centenarian societies. So places where people in general are living healthier and longer and have a much higher proportion of people who are living to be 100 years and more. When I think about anybody that I know, and I really only know one person personally who lived to be 100 years old, it wasn't like a beautiful 100. Most
Mhm.
of the people I know, even who are living in their 80s, are living with some kind of morbidity, comorbidities, disabilities, medications, like that. You go to these centenarian societies and they're living a really long time, and they're living really healthy. But most of their food are whole foods. They're eating whole foods. They're eating things that they grew, things that come out of water. The ones that eat meat, they're eating meat that is being consumed very close to when it's being killed. It's not being
Mhm.
processed. It's not full of all the things and preservatives and things like that, right? So there's a lot that we know about how people can be healthy. When you cut someone's income, especially when they're living on a fixed income, people now have to go for lower quality, cheaper food. And that food is often not the food that's health promoting or health sustaining. But if you've got to make a choice between keeping your lights on,
Yeah.
right? So paying if you live in Baltimore, and I don't want to name the company because it's not about them, but your gas and electric bill doubled it starting in January. It doubled. The company, it's a monopoly, basically. And so if you want to keep your lights on, your gas and electric bill doubled. So that bill went up. And of course, people want to have their lights on, but now your income is about to be cut. They also cut food stamps. That's been happening. They've cut food stamps. So then people have to make harder decisions. So you either eat less or you eat lower quality food. I lived in Flint, Michigan. You've seen Roger and Me. People, and my stepdad worked for General Motors, truck and bus on Van Slyke. People were eating dog food.
Yeah.
People were eating dog food out of a can because it has a lot of the basic components that human beings need. And they showed that. And people were like, couldn't believe it. That's crazy. But that's the kind of decisions you force people to make. And then we look at them and tilt our heads. But it's like, you're being penalized because you worked your whole life and paid into a system that now is not making good on what it said it would be for you.
And see, what I'm wanting to know from you then is the fallout in terms of our health.
Yeah,
Just what is the fallout? I mean, because already, look, our military services, we need more people in the military service, but we can't get people in the military service not only because we're obese, but oftentimes we're obese because we're getting bad food. You eat
hmm
more when it's less nutritious and when it's less filling. When you get a
hmm
protein, you're fuller, quicker, right? I mean,
yeah,
and we're sicker. Now,
yeah,
people say what they will about Robert Kennedy. I didn't have a problem with him. I'm like, if you want to get us well, I'm with it. Because we got. Now, I don't have to agree with you 100% on everything. I don't care. I'm
sure.
like, the road that we're on is not working. And now you're going to give people less money. You're looking for waste, fraud, and abuse with the little checks. If you are a high wage earner, you don't get a whole. Even then, you don't get a whole lot from Social Security, Deborah. You
Yeah.
don't.
I mean, I'm basically donating to Social Security. I have zero expectation that that money is going to be available. And one of the things I've been looking at whitehouse.gov every day, I've signed up for the alerts. I get them because I want to know what's going on. And I did. I
Yeah.
went one day and I read all the executive orders. I started one day, maybe about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And I did honestly, I got a little overwhelmed. I was specifically looking at the stuff around DEI and what that might meant for my book that I was under contract for, why equity matters. And I ultimately said, I got to take a step back. But I'm coming back to this because I like the fact that it's all there and I can see it. So I went back a few days ago and I just sat down. I got me a nice cup of tea and I had the pot of tea and I said, I'm going to be nice and calm and at ease. And I started reading through all of these executive orders. But the thing that I noticed when I went just to the main page is one of the big initiatives is it says, make America healthy again.
Mm.
So I've seen a sort of disappearance of the MAGA movement, the Make America
Hmm.
Great Again. All the old timers, and I'm saying old timers like I'm saying the people who were on the MAGA movement. That
Hmm.
language has kind of gone away a bit. You don't see
Hmm.
it, right? But except for people got the T-shirts and the hats. But it did say Make America Healthy Again. And whenever people say again, I ask them, what decade are you referring to? I
Well,
want to know when you say again, what are we going back to? Because then let's look at health. and health of Americans then. Because if you look, we Americans, for as high as our GDP is and all of that, we are not nearly as healthy as our other wealthy nation counterparts. We are
Back
not, we do not live as well, and we don't live as long, and we spend a lot more money on healthcare than they do.
back that up, because many countries around the world, which is now what's beginning to come out.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Illinois State Senator Willie Preston, who I've done some work with,
Mm-hmm.
He's become part of this national movement to get certain chemicals out of our foods. I mean, like, people, you can't sell Skittles overseas. They're like, you can't have that here. I mean, there's a lot of Frosted Flakes. They're like, no,
Red
no.
number this, yellow number that. If you get ketchup in Europe, it does not taste like ketchup here, because there's stuff in our ketchup that's illegal in other countries, because
Say
they
that
know
again. Say that again.
that
What?
literally, and here's what's crazy, even the same brand, you can buy Heinz ketchup in Europe. It is a different formulation than the Heinz ketchup here. Our taste buds are now accustomed to all of the chemicals, all of the dyes, all of the people care what stuff looks like here. I go to Ghana. I did not realize I got some fresh fruit, and it was pineapple. And the pineapple was almost white. And I was like, oh, I know this is not going to taste good. And then I had it, and it was sweet, and it was a nice texture and like that. And I'm like, wow, we care more about what the food looks like than
Yeah.
what it tastes like. And people will inject our stuff with dyes and all kinds of other things to make it look a certain way.
Like
But it,
salmon.
yeah,
Salmon is white. It's
yeah.
not red. It's not orange.
And you will pass over a piece of white salmon in the market for the bright orange one, not realizing that what it took to get that salmon bright orange has actually diminished the value of that salmon and added things to it that now take away from the health benefit of it. Yeah,
But
but it's crazy. Yeah, we
pick
eat things
Carol
that
up
you
off the
can't get in
floor.
other places.
But
Mm-hmm.
pick Carol up off the floor. She said, "Oi, hey, oh, I know, Carol." Carol, like, "Oh my God, no, my gosh."
No, it's
So
and I
she's
the first
cavelling. I know it.
yeah
I got it. And I love
yeah.
you too, Velma. I thank you. And people are saluting your scholarship. And they're so glad to see you. They don't know what to do.
Oh, look, I'm looking at the comments now. Okay, I can see them. I can see them. I can
You
see them.
you better. They're like, what? Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. But I mean, but so help me to understand, because I don't know if many Americans understand um, that a lot of what we're eating is unhealthy. And how do these, when I first had weight loss surgery, my physician, and wait a minute, I can back up to when I was a patient of Dr. Robert Atkins
Mm-hmm.
in the late 90s. In
Mm-hmm.
1996, I first went to his clinic. And of course, he was vilified in his lifetime, and now everybody does keto. But keto is he has a 4-phase plan:
Mm-hmm.
induction, which is keto, ongoing weight loss, pre-maintenance, and maintenance. But
Mm-hmm.
if you read the book, and I read the book, and then I actually became his patient, I would go to his clinic on the Upper East Side.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the wealthiest neighborhood in New York, but it was nothing but Black and brown people who were in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a disconnect, because these were some working class Black and brown people who were in that clinic. He said, no, I'm trying to get people off of diabetes. I'm trying to get people away from diabetes, obesity, which is a treatable disease. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah.
And we're going to work this out. He said, and I don't care what they say about me, but you know what he did? If you could, he wanted you to go to specific butchers. His wife was French.
Mm-hmm.
And there were certain butchers in Manhattan that did, this because you lived there. There's one butcher
Mm-hmm.
that I used to go to over there by the United Nations. And I went to him for years after that,
Yeah.
because he did not, you had to get that meat and that fish that day,
Yeah. Yeah.
because and you didn't buy a lot of it because you had to go back, because you had to shop
Mm-hmm.
like a European. And he said that's part of what if you wanted to be in his program, that was part of what you had to do. You had to get, and when I had surgery, anything that had MSG was poison. They wanted us away from all of the stuff that you just talked about. Can you talk to us about that? Because see, all of that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Who can afford to eat healthfully in the United States, Dr. Deb? Come on.
It's hard. And then, we do things, right? Like I remember when everything was about gluten. And I remember being in the market and I saw a pack of bacon and it said gluten free. And I'm like, bacon ain't never had gluten in it. But if you put gluten free on it, I'm so serious. People would say, oh, I'm gonna get this bacon. And bacon has never had gluten in it. Remember, we had the whole grain movement, and
Yes.
people would advertise, oh, whole grain. I'm like, well, was always, whole grain and things like that. And unless you have, celiacs or one of these things, gluten isn't a problem. I'm like, but so we go through these things. Remember the food pyramid, and then it was a circle at first, and then it was a pyramid. There's some basic things that we know about health
Hmm.
that have never changed, right? They've never changed, right? And those basic things, it's the same thing the grandmother told you. You just wash your hands before you eat.
Yeah.
There's some real basic foundational things that we know how it gets communicated and who makes money off of the new messaging and branding. I don't care what nobody tell you. Breast milk is always going to be best for a baby, with
Mm.
very, 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 very minor exception. Breast milk is always best. But when the formula companies came on board and wanted it to be um, a new movement, it didn't change the fact that breast milk was best. But now the stakeholders and the people with a dog in the fight are the people who are making money selling formula and made it an elitist thing and then stigmatized breastfeeding as a poor person thing. And so people are almost taking pride in being able to formula feed their babies
Yeah.
to say, I can afford it. But it's like, but that wasn't what was best for your baby. What was best for your baby was for them to get mom's milk with all those good immunoglobulins and your immune system and all that other stuff. And the formula really wasn't the best for baby. But these companies made billions and billions of dollars with that messaging, and we didn't have the kind of interruption. We have now laws. They used to advertise cigarettes as healthy.
That's
People
unbelievable.
cigarettes were advertised as healthy. I don't know if you go in a store now, there's these big signs I've noticed everywhere that says, because of this, settlement in the such and such and such and such, these following companies intentionally made these products to get you addicted. It's I don't know if you know
Yeah.
it's there. You might not have seen it, but it's there, and it's like, yeah, but there was a point when doctors would round in the delivery ward, new moms and babies, and the doctor would come in smoking a cigarette, and
Oh
then we
yeah.
say, oh wait, secondhand smoke might be bad. The whole time they were engineering them just to get you addicted, just to get you addicted. If you just had, anytime you put combustible smoke in your lungs, not a good thing, right? But the Indian Native Americans didn't have the same degree of cancers and all of this other stuff until the big manufacturers came in and the big producers started adding all of these chemicals and other things to get you not just hooked, but hooked on their particular cigarette. Their particular cigarette. I've seen the research. I know it very well. Nicotine has actually some interesting positive properties in the body. Your body has nicotinic receptors in it, which is meant it must be able to receive and process it. The combustible smoke piece and then all those chemicals are the problem. Those are the carcinogens, not just nicotine itself, which is why people have had limited success with things like nicotine replacement gum, because you're not just hooked on the nicotine, you hooked on the 800 chemicals that this big tobacco manufacturer put in here. This is where we would expect our government to intervene, and these kinds of warnings that took us 50, 60 years to get, while all of these people's pockets got lined, not just the the companies, but all of the people who are supposed to make laws and policies to protect us took payoffs to stall and have things be some other way. So it is important that we understand for ourselves, what does it take to be healthy, what does that mean, and that we push back when you do things like cut people's earned benefits and force them to then make even tougher choices
Mm-hmm.
about how to meet their subsistence needs. So I can tell you all day, eat, sleep, move your arms and legs. Those three things have never changed. You want to eat healthy? I tell people the most nutritious, nutrient dense diet that you can afford. And I say that you can afford because I realize a pack of bologna is cheaper than the meat that you would get at the
And a pork
butcher,
chop,
than a
right?
pork chop.
Than a chicken.
Yes.
I mean, and it's cheaper to buy the chicken that they put on the rotisserie than it is for you to
Hmm.
buy the chicken that you have to make yourself.
Yeah.
It just seems
Yeah.
everything is upside down,
Yeah.
Dr. Deb. I mean, and
Yeah.
so how do we make these choices with less money?
Yeah. I'm looking at one of these comments. Somebody said, I don't eat
Okay.
MSG or GMO corn anything. All of us eat GMO. You don't even know it. You don't
Oh,
even
that's right.
broccoli is GMO. Broccoli does not naturally occur in nature. It is a byproduct of genetically modified cauliflower. Like, we are all eating it. I had no idea. I remember us having a conversation one time, and this is why I loved when Dr. Knighton would come on, about tilapia. And tilapia isn't the only fish. These fish are raised in these ponds. They're swimming in their own feces, and it's crowded, and they're stressed, and they're all of this. And but you see a light white flaky fish, and you think, oh, it's got to be healthy. It doesn't have a whole lot of health benefits in it. The omega threes and the other things. These fish don't have any of that stuff. So it's just literally like we are counting on our legislators and our agencies to regulate these things so that the stuff that we even are able to choose from is not bad for us. But again, corporations' goal is to make money. Their goal is to make money, and they want to make money now. They don't want to make, they would ideally like to make money now and forevermore. But corporations will trade off our health for their profits any day of the week, as will pharma and all of these other places. So, yeah. And somebody's talking here about Dr.
Oh, Dr.
Sabi.
Sebi, yeah.
Yeah.
Here it is, Solomon. He said, wow, a
Yeah.
topic on health. I followed the eating lifestyle that Dr. Sabi recommended years ago. And he wants to know, what do you think of him?
So I always tell people when I talk about diet, I don't mean a fad. I don't mean, people called Atkins, like the Atkins diet.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask people to think about diet in the biggest sense as what goes in your mouth,
Mm.
right? Diet is what goes in your mouth versus a diet, which is something you do for a short period of time to lose weight or cut fat or whatever. So I would tell people this: don't adopt any way of eating that you are not willing to maintain for the rest of your life.
Mm.
Because your diet and what you eat, you have one body. One body. Imagine if you could only own one car your whole life. You probably wouldn't miss the oil changes. You get your tune ups. You take very, very good care of it. If you knew I only got this one car to drive for the rest of my life, the first car I get is the car I have to drive for the rest of my life. You take impeccable care of it. Well, we only have one body to get us through this whole thing
Oh, yeah.
called life. So going on these, and I've done it, Santita. One of my faves was the grapefruit diet.
Mine
The
too.
grapefruit diet. But watch this. If you really now dissect what the grapefruit diet is, it's actually just a low carbohydrate, low calorie diet. That's what it
Mhm.
is.
Mm.
You're having either the unsweetened grapefruit juice or the grapefruit. And fruit is actually not bad for you, even
Mhm.
for diabetics. Fruit juice is different. There's as much sugar, I think, in one cup of orange juice as there is in something like 10 oranges, but none of the fiber. See, when you eat an actual orange and a piece of orange, all that little white stuff on the
Yeah.
outside and the skin of the orange is fiber. And fiber working in partnership with the meat and the sugar in the orange is your body metabolizes that differently. The problem is when we drink orange juice, you're just getting all the sugar. You're just getting one piece of it. So I go back to, the rigor of Dr. Sebi's diet and some of these other things that have been unlocked and unleashed as sort of keys and maybe some kind of secret sauce for health. There's value in all of those things, but I don't think people should take any of that stuff on if it's not going to be a lifestyle change. So I'm not going to live in a world where I can't have a piece of cake. I'm just not doing it.
No.
If I can't have a piece of cake, and don't get me wrong, I'm not eating cake every day. So I've adopted a lifestyle that makes sense for me. And I only have one rule. It's only one rule. Delicious or nutritious. I'm going to eat it if it's delicious, or it has to be at least one. So if I go and take a piece of chocolate cake, because I do love a little chocolate cake. If I have chocolate cake and it's dry, I will politely get my napkin and spit it out.
Me too. Okay.
I wish I would put a piece of nasty chocolate cake in my mouth. That's not worth it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yes. And I have had food when I'm hungry, because that's the worst thing you can do is get hungry, because then you make bad choices and you overeat. So if I'm hungry, I have choked down a salad that really wasn't like the yummiest salad.
Yeah.
I love a salad and I like all my goodies in my salad. And some people say, all the calories are in the dressing and the this and then the that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm having this salad has a lot of fiber, a lot of roughage. It's got meets my model food without a lot of labels on it and like that. I'm going to sprinkle my little blue cheese in it. I'm going to chop up my eggs and put that in it. And I really do love balsamic vinaigrette. I'm going to have the dressing that I want because it's nutritious. So that's what I've adopted to live by. And I just caution people from jumping on the new bandwagon. The same thing that these GLP-1s do, the Ozempics and the Mounjaros and all of that.
Well, what do you think about that?
Okay, here we go. So now I'm probably going to lose some people. People say, how do you feel about the vegan diet and no meat at all? Okay, I'll happily answer these questions, but I'm gonna couch what's my opinion, because now we just talking. So y'all asking me my opinion, I'll tell you my opinion. But it is informed by a larger understanding of what this looks like at a health and a population and at a community level. Unlike many other of the other medications that we have, there was an original intention to cure diabetes. That was the original intention of the Danish developer. And I don't know if I told you, Santita, I got inducted into the National Academy of Medicine last year.
Oh, congratulations. What?
Yeah. So I was elected in 2023. So you get elected and you find.
Oh, it's okay, everyone. She's going to come back. Okay. Oh my gosh, that is so incredible. Oh no, now you're mute. Now you're muted. Uh-oh.
I know,
Okay,
right?
You're back. Yeah. Okay.
So I got elected, and you find out they make a public announcement the first day of the annual meeting. And then you have a year where you're a full-blown member and all of that, but your actual induction is at the next meeting. So my induction was in October of 2024. And one of the leading scientists who discovered the action of GLP-1s in the gut and some other things was also inducted at the same time as me.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations. Yeah, it was awesome, right? And so there's a lot of potential there. There is really a lot of potential. And we had the same conversation when we talked about the COVID vaccine. None of these medications have made it to the market without going through some clinical trials. And I know people say, well, COVID happened, the vaccine happened really fast. And I keep telling people, no, a lot was happening in the background before that around these mRNA vaccines, which I am not talking about that anymore. If I never had to say the word mRNA again, I would be just because nobody remembers that from high school chemistry, right? But there's been a lot of work around how these things work. For diabetics, it has really the potential to be transformative.
Mhm.
And I have been tracking and following a lot of people. I have had some very important conversations with people in my life about it. And I've watched people really transform their health and go from being diabetic and A1Cs out of the roof to healthy normal weight in the A1C in the normal range, off of metformin and all of those other medications
Mhm.
um, in a year or 2 years. My own personal um, primary care physician was one of those people. She
Mhm.
was in that pre-diabetic range and she moved
Mhm.
into the diabetic range, and she started taking one of these GLPs and dropped 45 pounds in a year, A1C normal, off all medication, and like that. So now there's always the question of, well, do you have to take it forever? And how, what happens? Do you have to take it forever? And what happens if you stop taking it? Do you gain all that weight back? Does your body start to, like that? The clinical trials cannot tell us what will happen in 20 years because it's not a 20-year process. Now, imagine you are somebody who's been struggling with diabetes or excessive weight gain or like that, and you've tried everything your whole life. Would you want to be forced to have something that has such high potential? Would you not want it availed to you? You have a loved one dying of a rare cancer, and there's something that we've done the clinical trial work, and we know that it will cure this cancer, but we can't say what the 20-year effect of it might be.
Mhm.
No, you'd be like, I want it now. This is my best chance. So I think there's a lot of promise there. But of course, what happens is the haves and the privileged will kick your diabetic grandmother right to the side and jump to the front of the line.
Absolutely.
And people figured out, oh, it does mostly three things. It will hold your food longer so you feel fuller faster. It helps your body to break down processed sugars and deal with what they call insulin resistance. And it'll trick your brain into thinking you're not even hungry. All of those things also will support and promote weight loss.
But
So
that's
you've
what
got,
Dr.
yeah,
Atkins was trying to do.
yes.
It was, I mean, because I was hypoglycemic, which
Mm-hmm.
with all of the doctors I had gone to, no one, because when you're overweight, when you are fat, because that was it.
Yeah.
They that was your problem. They didn't look for anything else. And I had
Yep.
some of the best health care in the world. But
Yeah.
guess what? It turns out after reading his book, I said, wait a minute.
Yeah.
When he asked a series of questions, I said, wait a minute, perhaps I'm hypoglycemic. Went and got tested and found out that I was hypoglycemic, which meant I could have flipped into diabetes at any time. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And his eating plan, because he said this is not a diet, this is a lifestyle change. And
Yep.
the first 11 days, Dr. Deb, was so hard because I couldn't have anything sweet. I could not have a sweetener.
Yeah.
I could have water and protein
Yeah.
and a limited amount of broccoli because they wanted to get it was like I was detoxing from sugar, but they
Mm-hmm.
also wanted to if they wanted to see how I would react to stevia or a sweetener because he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't fond of sweeteners. He liked stevia. He said if you must have something sweet. And so, I mean, you know what? I got about a minute left here. You got to promise me you're going to come back because everybody, Paula said it for everybody. The lady's a genius. She said, what are you drinking? She's drinking water.
A smoothie. No, it's a
Smoothie.
smoothie.
What's wrong with you?
It's a smoothie. Because I didn't eat. I didn't eat. So I said, I got to have
Oh, me
something
either.
to And then, of course, my daughter gave me this cup, the oldest,
Oh.
India's mom, for Christmas. So here you go. My favorite child gave me this cup. But
And
yeah.
guess what? Okay, my Atkins drink. I've had two today. I've got to have another. Yes, I know. Look, I found out I wasn't having enough protein. So,
Well, Santita, since that's what we're doing, I had the same problem because I'm now 50, perimenopausal and all of that. And these are my preferred ones. I love them. I'm not
wait a minute.
advertising
What
for
is that?
anybody.
Hold on. Wait a minute. What is it? Fairlife?
Yeah, and I call them my chocolate milks. I really love them.
Fairlife?
And
Where
yeah,
do you find it?
I'm
Fairlife
gonna
Core
send it to
Power?
you. I order them online. I don't promote anybody, especially some of these places, but I get them online.
Okay, all
I
right.
love them. And my son uses them too. This is the one he takes, my son Gabriel, because he's a
Okay.
boy. He has a greater protein need.
I have a greater protein need.
Yeah, and we have all his protein needs. He's a 25-year-old young man. I'm a 50-year-old. Uh, I don't want to say old woman, but I'm 50
I
now. The golden year. And so I really took it on. I went through a lot of sort of changes in my body and my health, and
Mhm.
perimenopause is a whole thing. We should do a whole show on that because
When
men and women need to
women
understand
peri and
this.
post,
Yeah, peri and post.
but
Yeah.
I think peri is a real big thing because for me, I didn't feel menopause.
Yeah.
I just went right into, okay, this is a new change. Okay, that's it. And I think we need to talk about that, everybody. Oh wow, everybody wants to talk about that. I mean, but they
Yeah.
want to talk about the food. They want to talk about everything. Oh, you all really enjoyed. We started, of course, talking about Social Security, but because she is Dr. Deborah Holden, epidemiologist, I mean, the former dean of the Global Public Health School at NYU, former associate dean at Michigan State University, their med school. I mean, and one of the most respected scientists in the world. I said, well, let's let the conversation go where it's going to go. Didn't I say that before we came on?
You sure did, but we got a bottom line. Cutting people's benefits are going to force people to make tough choices, and those choices are a threat and a undermine to their health, and even worse, to their dignity. People have done their part, they've worked their time, and all of that. This
Mhm.
is not how you solve a problem. You don't solve a problem by just bringing a sledgehammer and whacking it over the head. And I, you know,
Or
feel
change.
for yeah, or change something, right? Yeah, you don't bring a chainsaw. And so we're gonna see the impacts of it. And you know what happens when people are faced with threats to their survival,
Mhm.
people go into a different mode. And I see somebody in here said we're going to see an increase and crime and some other things.
Yeah,
And I think that's likely. Before I would let my children go hungry, I'm going to work something out.
absolutely. And your
And the thought
grandbaby?
that we're going to put people in that
Mm-mm. The Hunger
position.
Games. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it is.
People we already deal with food insecurity. It's like this is what you thought made sense. It's like, man, maybe
Mm-mm.
if we could just better regulate the food that is available and some of these there's so many other things if you want to I'm gonna drop the again. I could buy into let's make America healthy. But then get health experts and we don't have to be all the same.
Hmm.
You could have a Dr. Sebi at the table.
Absolutely.
You could have a Deborah Furhold, an epidemiologist, at the table. You could have somebody who doesn't believe in vaccines at the table. But
Absolutely.
people should have expertise, and that expertise is not just about the degree or the credential they have, but the lived experience and the results that they've been able to produce with the models that they're proposing for us. We can fight and grapple.
Hmm.
I'm okay with that. I just did a big report with the National Academy of Medicine on recommendations for marijuana policy.
Hmm.
And it was and we have people there who are studying cannabinoids outside of THC, and they're looking at CBN and CBG and all these other things. And I also had parents who came for the public testimony to testify about their children having a condition called hyperemesis, where you have these major GI upsets that can be debilitating. And no one talks about it. So they didn't even realize it was linked to their marijuana consumption. But as
Oh,
soon as you stop smoking, it resolves. But people convince themselves in order for me to eat, I have to smoke a little marijuana or whatever. It's just like if we would just be truth tellers, lead with the science, put that out there, and have room for we aren't all going to disagree. But let's not call someone's opinion science. Let's just and there are people who haven't had the luxury of being funded by the NIH to run a 3,000 person clinical trial or like that. But how many people have gone through Dr. Sebi's lab and through Dr. Sebi's program and been following his program? Great, let's talk about that. Because you know what? There's a biochemist around the table who might be able to breathe some light into, well, what's actually here. And what's happening is this is high in antioxidants, and that's causing, like, we could actually sharpen each other. It's about giving people access to quality information so they can make their own choice. Atkins was basically putting people into ketosis, which could have been transformative for diabetics.
Yeah.
In the absence of, now we have a medication, but we are a medication society. We love, I mean, literally, this is like, it's like the magic injection. People love, oh, I just take one injection and I'm good. I don't have to, I can do what I want. And
Give me a pill. I'm like,
give me
really?
a pill, give me a little thing, you know. But yeah, it's a different time. So I think these sort of foundational things about what does it actually take to be healthy, we're really going to have to take on. And I will say this: no one's coming. There's going to be no big recommendations coming out of what they say. Your benefits cut. They will not be telling you or helping you, Mr. Government efficiency expert is not going to be able to help people figure out how to keep their households going when your gas and electric bill has doubled and your monthly income has been cut by 5, 10, 12, whatever percent. So that's why I think shows like this and these kinds of conversations are really so important, because people need access to quality and credible information to make good choices for themselves.
Well,
They need that. They deserve it.
that's why you're part of the family. And
Yeah.
the next talk we're going to have will be on perimenopause, menopause, the change of life,
Yeah.
and how we get through it. So you let me in the next, because we're going to Selma together next week, everybody. So well, that's where we'll be. But we'll do that in the coming days, because people loved hearing about the health, and we're going to do that. And because everybody wants to be healthy, but I thank you for talking up to us, not talking down to us.
Yes.
Because when I want my mother's raised 5 children to maturity, so I want to know from her, you know,
Hmm.
about medicines and how do you take care of children, and my mother's mother refused to eat flesh. you know
Hmm.
I mean, she would eat a little bit of chicken, she just a little bit of, just at some point, but then I think maybe about 30, 40 years before she passed, no, nothing that was flesh. And she did not go out to eat at all, because she wanted to go to the market, get her food, and make it herself, and that was it.
Hmm.
And she had all of her teeth when she died, and she just had congenital heart issues, but she was able to beat them back into her early 90s. We've got to talk about these things, everybody. But you know what, Dr. Deborah Holden, we are forever grateful to you, because you are a gift. You are a gift, and we're gonna get the whole team back together. Call Dr. Shanita Knight, and I hope we don't. We're gonna laugh and cry and holla, but we're gonna talk about
Yes.
this perimenopause, because that's something that everybody's talking about. They've got all of these things that you can take for it, and maybe you should take something. Maybe there's a change in your lifestyle that you can make that will get you through this moment. And so,
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I want to invite your guests. The men need to be here for that conversation.
why?
Why? Because I'm 50. Um, the man that I was dating, and there's no woman who's 50 who's not somewhere on the menopause spectrum.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just not happening. I did not realize this gentleman was 2 years younger than me, and which wasn't my choice. That's not my preference, but he was 2 years younger than me. He literally knew nothing about menopause, perimenopause. And I'm just like, baby, we gotta have a conversation. I'm gonna just lay it out for you right here, right now.
Yeah.
And he didn't believe me. He said, no, that's crazy. He said, my mom and dad are still very active. I said, I guarantee you, mama got something in the nightstand. And daddy might too. His parents never said anything. His mother's never taught. He's the oldest of 5 siblings. He knew nothing about it. And because oftentimes men will date younger women,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm if I'm 50 and I'm dating slightly older, but you're also my age and the women you've dated have been younger than you, they haven't gone through it yet. I was shocked. And then I realized, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no one really told me about it. I didn't even recognize my own symptoms. I have friends who dealt with everything from, memory loss, mood swings, irritability, the hot flashes. We all joke about the
Yeah,
hot flashes, but it is not trivial.
you're right.
It's not
You're right.
trivial, and I've been able to watch people. I see them. They look one way one day. They come in the next day with a Anita Baker haircut. I'm like, I know what that's about. You know what I'm saying, Santita.
Oh my gosh. Do I know? Look at me.
Yeah, and it's hard for people to wrap their heads around if, if this is something that you're going through and you don't understand it, then it's hard to get what you need when you don't even know what's happening. And that's to my sisters. But then to their partners, to the husbands, to the brothers, to the coworkers, to the whatever, they don't either. I'm like, why don't we talk about this? I promise you, never heard of menopause in sex education class.
Yeah.
And surely as you menstruate, you will menopause,
Yes.
right? Like you will. And I've seen it literally ruin marriages because for some people, the
Wow.
hormonal shifts will cause such a change in your vaginal biology pH like that, and in your hormone levels, where you might lose your sex drive, or you
Yeah.
might sex can become painful and all these other things. And then you've got partners who feel rejected because they don't understand that it's not them. Your biology has changed on you. It's like being betrayed by your body.
Wait, it's like that new Lumi deodorant and soap. The old lady smell is a real thing, y'all. Because
Yeah,
your pH changes, and I mean, it is a game changer. We've got to talk about that. We have to talk
yeah.
about these things, everybody, because I'm telling you, I'm looking at things and I am like, wait a minute, because I'm a woman of a certain age. I'm 61, and I never felt better, and I want to feel better than that. I want to feel better than
All
you.
I can say is I gotta do better, Santita. 61, you over here looking like you about 35, girl. You
Baby,
inspiring
I
me.
am. I am every day of it. And you know what my father said to me?
What?
Yes, she did say that, Paula, because the thing is, they're not. She said, did she say vagina biology?
Vaginal
Yes.
biology. Yes.
You know what? Because the fact is, there's no part of our bodies that are nasty, and we have to grow. We have to grow, and we have to be able to. We have been commodified. We've been violated. There's been so much that's happened. Now we're older and grown, okay, and we have to really move in another direction and get healthy about all of this. And I can see from how people are reacting to what you're saying that this is a conversation that we need to have immediately, because it's really needed. It's really needed because we don't have spaces where we can have these conversations. Because all women, I don't care what your background is, we've been body shamed about everything. You're not big enough. You're too fat always. Sometimes you're too thin. Your body parts smell. I mean, it's just everything. And how can the body that brings forth life be nasty? Oh, wait a minute. You're muted, but that's okay.
Things that are marketed to us are insidious.
Yeah.
My vagina should not smell like purple roses. And the vagina is not a smelly organ. If you have a
Hmm.
smell coming out of your vagina, honey, you might have bacterial vaginosis. And
Yeah.
there's an easy way to resolve that. But it also shouldn't smell like flowers. So when you buy sanitary products that are scented and all of that, you're doing.
Crazy.
And who are we doing that for? It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's
And
crazy.
then when your hormone levels change, everything changes. So does your vaginal pH, which impacts your vaginal moisture. This is why I said we need to talk about this, and I need the men here too. I love you. You're doing a great job. My vaginal moisture is not a function of how amazing you are. My biology is changing.
That's right.
You need to know that. I don't need you to be the little engine that could out here, right? Like, but this is very real stuff. And I will tie it back to something critical. We need access to these kinds of supports in healthcare.
Yeah.
You need to be able to go to your GYN. You need to be able to go to the practitioner of your choice and talk about what you're dealing with. When I started this process, Santita, I almost died. I just started bleeding and wouldn't stop. And I unfortunately was on the road. I was literally at the American Public Health Association conference. And I walked up a big flight of stairs. And when I tell you I got to the top, I had no energy. And I was working out and I would work out and I would say to my trainer, I'm so winded. I'm so winded. And all that had happened was my progesterone level had dropped so low. It was like my body just kept dropping that uterine lining. But I, unfortunately, being too focused on what I was doing professionally and just getting to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, I allowed myself to bleed like that for almost 60 days. And I was literally leaving Boston and on my way to California for a different meeting. And I said, I feel like I'm dying. And thank God I left and did not go to California and came home. I got an emergency appointment the next day. They did some blood work. And I got a phone call the next morning from the doctor himself. And he said, how do you feel? And I said, I'm okay. And he said, your hemoglobin and red blood cell count is so low. If I were you, I wouldn't take more than 5 steps. I said, what? He said, you are at such an extreme risk for a heart attack because these levels are so low. Your heart has to be working double time to circulate the red blood cells that you do have, which is what carries oxygen throughout your body, that you are at a very high risk of a heart attack. I would walk no further than your bed to the bathroom or your bed to the refrigerator. And if I were you, I would really have somebody come and be with you. He said, you need to go to the hospital and have a blood transfusion. I would do, if it were me, you should go right now. He said, if something happened to you, you would not be able to get anesthesia. You would not. And I was so relieved because I was like, oh, I am dying. Like, this is what it feels like. Because but no one told me this. And because I'm an African-American woman, the automatic assumption was, you must have fibroids. Oh. And I actually didn't. That wasn't the problem. It was something very simple that could easily be resolved. I had a major plummet in my progesterone level. It was solved like that. Once they figured out what it was, he said, it could be fibroids, it could be, and people kept saying fibroids. And the next day I said, I would maybe take a blood transfusion if that was the only way, but I said, I can't do that. So when I tell you, I've had to transform myself and my own relationship to this one body, my own knowledge and understanding. I wasn't listening to my own body. And I used to get on you, Santita, we were on the phone till midnight and then you were texting me at 2 a.m. and then you were on the radio at 6. There's no way you got a quality night's sleep. It's impossible.
And I wasn't.
And you said, well, I can't, and I this and I that. And eventually the bill comes due. And your body can only tolerate but so much deep sleep deprivation. You can only bleed for so long before you don't have enough red blood cells to oxygenate your body, and your heart can only pump. But if I hadn't have done something, I could have had a heart attack, just literally walking to work. And lo and behold, all this good medicine, it was one little blood draw. They did everything. They looked, no fibroids, no this, no that. It was just that one thing. They gave me it was like 5 or 10 milligrams of progesterone. And in 2 days, it all stopped. But now I had to deal with the crisis called my hemoglobin and my red blood cell count is in the toilet. I only was spared because this was now in December and I'm an academic. And so January, we had the winter break. And so I really pulled out my arsenal of health experts. And I said, I don't want a blood transfusion. The thought of My body being filled with somebody else's blood was hard for me to wrap my head around.
Thank you.
And I got myself, I have been, and we figured out, right? Because now I got all my medical records, all these electronic medical records. I love it because I was able to pull my medical records from when I was 17 and went to the health clinic at Johns Hopkins when I was an undergraduate student there. And now it's all in one place. The only reason I probably wasn't dead is because I've been anemic my whole life. So my body's already used to operating on less. But I was also at great risk for an enlarged heart, forcing my heart to have to take the little bit of red blood cells I have and get them all through my body to try to oxygenate everything. And it took me about 70 days. But for 30 days, I worked in my bed on my laptop with my computer
Of
up.
course you did.
And I did it with a plant-based iron supplement, dried apricots, and all of the high iron foods that I could, because that iron is that building block for the red blood cells and like that. And I did it without getting a blood transfusion or iron infusions. I did it by what goes in my mouth. Food is medicine. And so we'll have another conversation about that. But don't get it twisted. I needed these healthcare professionals and I needed my health insurance to be able to do that. And the thought that people with Medicare and Medicaid, so the elderly and people who are low to no income, are now going to have a threat to that. It's going to be harder to get. Your benefits are going to be less and like that. There are places who operate almost solely on a Medicaid, Medicare population.
Mm-hmm.
Their reimbursements are already capped at levels that are really low, but how they can thrive is on volume. So if the amount that they're getting drops, the amount of benefit that people are eligible for drops, the thought that I would be able to have not only survived through that, something simple. I'm like, what did they do in the 1800s? But the thought I could died. People died from cavities back then. Women died because of things like what happened to me. They just bled to death. You know what I mean? Like they bled to death. There was no hormone replacement. There was no little pill that could just get you back up and like that. But the thought that we live in a different day and time now, and that somebody would have a doctor's office or a healthcare clinic or FQHC right down the road, but they've maxed out on their benefits or their benefits have been cut, or now because there's only 3 people working in the Medicaid office, that they would have to wait
forever.
And because they are low to no income or of a certain age, and this is the insurance they have, would die or suffer like that. I'm not okay with that. And that's going to be the impact of these things that are happening. People are going to be waiting longer. People are going to be denied. People aren't even going to have it. So they're going to say, why bother? And things that people did die and suffer from in the 1800s that now one doctor's visit or two can get you right. We're going to start to see some slippage. Our average life expectancy dropped during COVID. We lost, I think, about a year and a half in different population groups. Doing these things is also going to cause some of that slippage. And again, remember what I said earlier, we are already living sicker, dying younger than our peer countries. And we also spend per capita substantially more money on healthcare. So just cutting that even more, not dealing with the root problems called our food is bad. We got stuff that people don't even know is bad for them that you can't even get in other countries. Same company will make a different ketchup for France than they will for the US, because France said, you're not putting that crap in our ketchup.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so many other things that we could be doing that would set a foundation for people, and other types of knowledge that we could be sharing. But in this season, cutting off people's benefits and cutting them back when they've already worked and earned them, or we decided as a society, we think it's important that everybody have minimal access to resources to have food, water, shelter. And now we're backsliding on that. I don't know. I said, well, people, this is what y'all wanted. This is what you voted for. So now you got it.
Well, they didn't want it, but and
Yeah.
let's put it this way: they didn't think they were going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But they say when you dig one ditch, you better dig two, one for me and one for you. But I think honestly, people wanted change. They were so desperate for it because things have been off,
Yeah.
that they didn't think that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I don't assign, and you're not doing that either. I don't
Yes.
assign, these nefarious motives to Trump voters. No, the thing is, Trump voters, and there's a thin line between the Trump and the Bernie voter. The data have shown that
Yeah.
people, they wanted someone who looked like, because Bernie is drawing crowds. He Venues are too small. Every time there's a rumor that Bernie's coming to town, they have to find bigger and bigger and bigger venues because they want someone who's going to fight for them. That's all they want.
And stand on something and not be so quickly and so easily, bought out by things. And you know what? I think all of these people in these positions, you got to make some concessions. You got to give a little, you get it. But the big things that you believe in, you got to stand on. I'm just blown away that you could just issue an executive order this fast and change something so quickly. And I have friends that work in the family in the federal government. Remember, I'm from the DMV. I'm from DC. I was born at Washington Hospital Center.
Okay.
I have a lot of family and good friends and people I went to high school with and all of that who have lost their job. And people are like, oh no, they're not going to allow this. The courts are going to. Well, tell that to the 7 people in my friend's division where she had 33 employees. And they said, first thing, anybody who's still on probation, fired. And somebody left the job. A woman left the CDC a year ago and moved her family from Atlanta to Bethesda to switch from one government agency to another.
Which is expensive.
And she had her years of government service, but they said, well, you're new to this agency, so you're still on probation. And just like that, they got those emails. And because we got these tech gurus now running these things, the second you clicked on and opened the attachment that was your fire letter, it started some chain. And within 30 seconds, all of your access was denied. So if you had something on your computer that was personal like that, I promise you, I'm not making this up. I got it right out of the mouth of a friend who oversees a division within one of the Health and Human Services agencies at the NIH. I said, she was in tears. She said, this is so hard to watch and so painful. And I don't know who you had on your show talking about now what's going to happen with unemployment, because I'm in Maryland. I'm in Baltimore now. I'm in Baltimore. I'm here because that's where Indy is. I got to be close to the grandbaby because all this craziness, I got to have some joy and some light and some of it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We are about to get clobbered over the head with unemployment claims.
So, homelessness.
And homelessness and foreclosures and all of that.
People who are going to take they're going to take, I mean, colossal falls. They're going to fall from here all the way down. Because remember, the wealthiest Black county in the country is PG County, Prince George.
I'm from PG. I grew up in Seat Pleasant, Maryland, and graduated from high school in Oxon Hill, Maryland.
Okay.
And that is the wealthiest Black county, but
in the country. Not anymore.
Yeah, and it's about to be a different.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're gonna talk about. We're gonna, like your father said, keep hope alive. I tell people we should keep hope alive, but hope isn't a strategy. So
and hope wasn't a strategy for him. It was, wait a minute, we got to keep hope alive as we are fighting.
Exactly.
I don't want you to lose faith, y'all.
Yes.
I want you to keep on going. Now you got to keep on going. Now we got more work to do.
Yeah. So you have me back, and we can talk about some strategy for folks, both around the health thing. Real efficiency experts. When I was a kid, we read this book called Cheaper by the Dozen. I think they made a movie about it. And I think,
oh my gosh, absolutely.
Remember the dad on there was an efficiency expert. That was his job. He was an efficiency expert. That's I said, right. Calling him, well, how are you an efficiency expert? But the dad on Cheaper by the Dozen was an efficiency expert. I'm not an efficiency expert. I don't even know exactly what that means. But there are things that we can be doing and things that we can be thinking about, both from a policy perspective, because, we got a lot of pushback from states. And Governor Westmore, who's also a Hopkins alum, he was a transfer student. So he technically graduated, I believe, 3 years after me, but we didn't overlap. But he's amazing in many, many, many ways. You
Oh
might,
yeah,
yeah. I would be happy to connect you to him if you do not know him.
I don't, but I've
Yeah,
heard many good things about him, and I've heard that he's wanted to connect with Reverend, and
yeah,
just to say hello, and I would love to do that, and I'd love to talk with him. I would.
yeah. Because I want to leave people also with um, what does this sort of mean for you, and what can you do, both as an individual, but also as a at a larger level. Because, yeah, at the end of the day, you have to be responsible for yourself, your family, your children, like that. I am concerned that this climate and environment is going to breed individualism in a way that is really going to be really impactful. I feel like, if we don't make sure that we honor just the basic ideal called everybody's life has value. We can't
Absolutely.
turn a blind eye to somebody because they're poor or elderly or don't have the kind of political power or savvy to advocate for themselves. This is what happened in Flint. And, this is what happened in Flint.
Well, the flip side of that is we're going to have to work together if we're going to make it.
We are. And individualism will undermine that. And if people get to well, I just got to look out for me and
Not
mine,
going to work. That's not
it
gonna work.
won't work.
That
It
won't
won't
work.
work.
Not going to.
So it's funny. So I said, well, I'm going to try this thing out. I signed up for my whitehouse.gov alerts and texts and all of that.
I'm
And
going
I
to sign up for that. Okay.
I did. I signed up for it. You go right on the White House page and I got my first little thing. They said, oh, well, these are the 5 things. Which one do you care more about? And I sort of looked at them and I was like, well, this is interesting. But I picked one. And now
Mhm.
I've done some thinking. I put some things together to say, if it's like if you flip a light switch here and nothing happens, you should flip it back.
Mhm.
Um, if you knock this thing over, oh yeah, you've solved that little right there problem, but you created this domino effect of other things. So
Mhm.
I'm just saying for the people like me who've given these things a lot of thought, if there's room at the table or if there's an opportunity or if there's any openness to getting in new information, I would love to see that. The thought, and my parents and grandparents are all dead, but the thought that we're going to have seniors out here eating dog food, I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. People will be eating dog food.
If they're
People will
wait a
be eating
minute,
dog food.
if they're lucky,
Yeah.
people are going to be going through garbage cans.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, but the thing is, we can change that.
Yep.
That's why I want you to call 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. Call these representatives and let them know that you want them. You be very specific about the change. Just say, don't cut me. Cut the Pentagon that's failed its audit 7 times, 7 consecutive years, and they don't expect to get things right to 2028. Now find the waste, fraud, and abuse there. While Elon Musk has got another a $400 million contract. Most of his wealth is based upon government contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
there's some answers here that and we have to go on. Be very clear. What happens to them will happen to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so
All right, I gotta tell you one other thing, and then I gotta go. Okay. Our good friend, he gonna be mad at me that I'm telling you this, and you might already know this, but if you don't, I'm gonna tell you. Todd Erie.
oh
Do you know he was an air traffic controller?
yes,
That was his first job. A very,
can you believe it?
a very good friend of mine was coming back from Puerto Rico. She said she was taking a vacation for one, and then her daughter ended up sliding in. These young adult kids of ours, even though they're 24, 25, we still treat them, they still come at us and they hit us with the mommy. When they say mommy, an ask is coming. She said, Mommy, I want to go. So she ended up going with her daughter. On their way back, they get to BWI. This is the day before this video that you've seen going around on social media. She said the plane was landing, and then just before they hit the ground, it took a sharp, steep turn going back up. They almost hit another plane that was taking off. And then they had to circle for 20 minutes. before that happened. And I said, and I had literally just come back from California. And now as you say this, I'm like, I don't know if I could drive to Montgomery. I think I am going to fly. We'll see. But it is concerning.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, okay, listen, if there's a general conversation about cutting government waste and cutting inefficiency, I'm down for that. But at what cost? Not at the cost that somebody's grandmother can't afford her medication and halfway decent food. Not at the cost of we don't have enough air traffic control and things like that in place, that planes are just barely missing colliding because there's just not. So
I'm not.
Gary come on and talk about that because he knows it and has it really, really deep. These cuts, this is like, okay, great. Like I could actually get on board with the concept, but the approach.
Cut the right thing. If you're going to go past the biggest agency in government that has failed 7 consecutive audits, and you're looking for a welfare princess, stop playing with me. They're not the waste, fraud, and abuse. The waste, fraud, and abuse is happening. Yeah, you got a little bit of that. Some people try to hustle, but the biggest hustlers and pimps in town are over there. Stop. I got Boeing that is heavily subsidized by our government. They can't keep a plane in the air and keep me alive in it.
Right.
And they continue to get paid.
They sure do. And they get contracts that would blow our mind. I'm like, it takes me a second to process how many zeros and commas is that?
I can't count them.
Yeah.
A million. That's that, you know. Come on now, wait. No.
Yes.
No. I'm many things, but stupid.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love you, Deborah Holden.
I love you back. And I will see you in Selma.
That's right. But I'm going to call so I can make the arrangements. But everybody, have you all had a good time today? Yes. Love you, Robert, Solomon, Carol. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. All these things are happening. I love all of you. Salam, everybody. I love you. We love you. And I know you were glad to see Dr. Deborah Holden. I know you were. I'm getting all the messages. Love you. Yes. Have a good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. I am going to go to Congressman Jonathan Jackson's town hall meeting, which is going to be virtual. Go to his website, Congressman Jonathan Jackson. They had more than 15,000 people last week. We expect to see even more people because people want to know what's going on. Even if you're not in his district, you'll get some great information. See you at 7 Central Standard Time. Love you, girl.
Love you to the moon, my friend.
Love you, India. Yeah. She's everybody's grandbaby.
Yeah. She is.
Love you all, everybody. God bless you. Lamont. Yeah, it was great. I love you, girl. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Bye-bye.